Bring in some other voices to talk about the president's trip here and the importance of it. Kelly Jane Torrance, who's deputy editor of the Weekly Standard, and Julian Zelizer is CNN political analyst and professor at Princeton University. The president spoke on trade in Japan. In fact, he was talking about trade right before dinner. Let's just take a listen to what was said.
Over the next 10 days, we travel to South Korea, China, Vietnam, and the Philippines. We will seek new opportunities for cooperation and commerce, and we will partner with friends and allies to pursue a free and open Indo-Pacific region. We will seek free, fair, and reciprocal trade. But this future is only within our grasp because of you.
And of course, we know that North Korea is the top of the list, but also trade, hugely important, as the president just referred to. And yet, this is the same president that, of course, the first act he did was pull the U.S. out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So, Kelly, I'm wondering, do you expect some sort of trade deal out of this, or at least a framework?
It's interesting to hear Donald Trump use the words free trade, isn't it? It's not something he says very often. Actually, the last time I can remember was when he first met Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He started speaking a little bit about having a good free trade agreement with Canada. And it does seem that this is one issue that Donald Trump might actually be able to be talked into good policy by the United States' allies. And this is, it's interesting, though, because he campaigned really against free trade and talked about, China especially. We're gonna go after them. They're stealing American jobs. And perhaps now that he's meeting with these leaders and seeing exactly what it means to have a free trade agreement and what it does for the American economy, he's kind of softening on that. So there could be a trade deal coming out of this. I think it's all going to depend on what happens behind the scenes. I don't think Trump himself is the man to make those kind of deals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it always does. Although he has, by self-proclamation, he is the deal maker. But anyway, exactly. President Trump is not going to visit the DMZ during his trip to South Korea, which is unlike most other presidents that have gone to South Korea in the past. What's up with that, Julian?
Well, I think in some ways it reflects how poorly relationships have deteriorated in this region. Some of this goes beyond President Trump. Certainly with North Korea, but even tensions with South Korea. But a lot of it is about President Trump, from the tweets to the threats to the words he's had, again, both for North Korea, but also words about South Korea that have left us in this place. And I also think there's just concerns about what the president will say. And there are efforts just to remove him from situations on this trip where his words might cause trouble and tension.
That's an interesting point. President Trump says that he's going to likely meet, this came out of apparently conversation with reporters on his flight, going to likely meet with Vladimir Putin. Now, we thought part of the reason of going on this Asia trip gave him the opportunity to leave the whole Russia investigation behind. This would seem to bring it all up, and it's certainly going to make people go, what is he going to talk about? And of course, meeting with another president of another nation is part of the job. But at this particular time, Kelly?
Yeah, it seems odd, doesn't it? But I almost think this, he enjoys meeting authoritarian leaders. It's really a little strange. When Erdogan of Turkey was here in D.C., he seemed to really enjoy meeting him. And on this trip, he's going to be meeting with the president of China, who he recently on Twitter congratulated him on his elevation, he called it. I mean, this is a dictator, has consolidated his power even further, and Donald Trump's congratulated him. He's meeting in the Philippines with the President Duterte, who is really, it's kind of scary what's going on in that country with extrajudicial killings of people involved in the drug trade. And, I feel like meeting with Vladimir Putin, it's, why not? You're meeting with all these other dictators that Donald Trump has nice words for. Why not throw in one more?
Julian, can I ask you something that struck me? Of course, at the beginning of this trip, the president stops in Hawaii to meet with U.S. troops, but he made a specific point of visiting the USS Arizona. He does a tour of Pearl Harbor, then gets on a plane and immediately meets with the Prime Minister of Japan. I cannot think that that's just mere coincidence.
No, again, I always hesitate, though, to speculate behind the scheduling, the logic, and the timing of the president.
But that is a big deal to the Japanese people.
Absolutely, and this was, in some ways, an opening theme for the president and the administration on this trip. So, this might be a message about the United States, about his priorities of America's role in the world, and a message to the leaders, including the Japanese leaders he's about to meet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's also an indication there, too, of the man who claims to be the deal maker coming in and trying to throw your opponent a bit off balance, or in this case, the Japanese Prime Minister, who we also look upon as an ally. Kelly Jane Torrance and Julian Zelizer, I wish we had more time, but we don't. We'll talk to you again. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
Well, Paul Manafort wants a little more freedom. What